guys. Welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen, if you are on Facebook, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you are on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell. This way, you know when Real Talk with Ellison is going live. Well, I am super excited about this show today, right? We are going to be talking to some Gen Zers. So, on today's show, we're going to be talking about some Gen Zers, but we're getting ready to get this show started. So, stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. I'm so excited about this show because me, Gen X, is going to be talking to some fabulous guys from Gen Z. But before I introduce them, y'all know how I do. Let me give you some statistics. First, I want to say this. Is Gen Z the lost generation? Right? So less than half of which is 41% of Gen Z Americans are thriving in their lives. That is the lowest among all the generations in the United States today. And it's much less than those millennials at the same age of our Gen Zers. Well, listen, there are so many different stereotypes out there, and I am not even going to try to bring them all up, but we are going to discuss some of them. So, joining me today, I have two wonderful young men who are beating the odds and doing things a little bit different. And they're going to shed some of their perspective on insight about Gen Z. So, joining me right now is Darrell Myles. Hey, Darrell.
How's it going?
Good, it's good, it's good, it's good. Darrell, tell me just a little bit about you.
I work with a agency that does community mental health services, and I am currently a grad student pursuing my master's in counseling at Southeastern
Oh,
Louisiana University. Just started clinicals this semester, and they're going great.
ooh, good for you. All right. And then we have joining us Mr. James Brunson. Hey, James. Hey.
Mm.
How's it going? Tell us a little bit about you.
Um, well, I'm a business systems analyst in the hospital. I'm gonna keep the hospital out the way, but I'm in the hospital. I just graduated with my master's in healthcare administration this past December. Um, and yeah, like right now I'm just trying to navigate the world, just trying to see everything past being in school and just see how everything goes from there.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, whew, I did some research and some reading, and I'm like, man, them generations don't like Gen Z. So you heard me say, like, is Gen Z the lost generation? I mean, it was so much negativity that I kind of felt bad, right? It was so much negativity. It was like they lazy, they don't want to work, um, they afraid to work, they feel like they deserve more but don't want to work hard for it. I mean, all of this is just being said about Gen Z. But here we have two gentlemen who have gone through college, almost done with college, working in two fields that are demanding, right? So I'm almost feeling like y'all are kind of debunking that a little bit. Who wants to chime in on that?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Break the ice a little bit. Um, so the whole notion that we're lazy and all the slew of things that they could say about us. I mean, I feel like every generation has those type of people. not everyone in the generations previous to us are prosperous in what they're doing.
Mhm.
Um, and the statistics, it looks a little crazy because there are probably more Gen Zers than there are any other of the other generations, right? So those numbers might look crazy statistically because there are more Gen Z than there are probably millennials and definitely Gen X and baby boomer. Like, so,
Baby boomers? Baby boomers was that's why they call baby boomers.
but the thing is, baby boomers is on a decline now. So,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
those generations, I don't think it really is solely on the person. You can't wrap everyone into the same bubble
Right.
because you see a few lazy people at work, or you got a bad experience at Wendy's or McDonald's or something like that. Because there are people in this generation that are really like pushing the needle forward.
Mhm.
All these different applications that you look at, like with AI, right? Gen Zers, millennials, we're creating those type of technologies that are, feeding the world, making everything just better and more efficient.
Okay, listen. So you listen. I'm gonna jump in on that one. So you think millennials and Gen Z created AI?
Hey, if they didn't create it, they making it better.
So AI, no, it's been around, and again, I agree. Let's agree to disagree. I can believe that perhaps some of them are making it better, and I also want to talk to you about the numbers, right? Because when I did the research, I didn't do the numbers on the baby boomers now that are declining, that are unfortunately being more, they're more deceased. I did the numbers based on y'all age versus the millennials, Gen X, baby boomers. And at that age, right in there, it was saying between the ages of 18 and 46, 41% of the Gen Zs are actually flourishing versus 60% of the millennials. And this is the same age group. I'm not saying older and younger. So that's a big difference. That's a big difference in the numbers between 18 and 26. The decline is astronomical. So why do we feel like it's a decline, Darrell? I'm gonna come to you. Why do we feel like it's a decline since James brought up the numbers?
I mean, also another thing in the numbers to consider and be like very hyper aware of, which we all know, the economy is completely different. Now, we're not going to say it's the main factor, but stuff that goes into that plays into it. It's like, how much do these things cost? Rent has shot up
Mm-hmm.
so much in the past 2, 3 years. And that's something that a lot of our generation is faced with right now. If you're not already in something that's locked in that your grandfather in, you're looking at what I, in Louisiana, I think most 3 bedrooms are 1,800 off rip. And they want you to make 3 times that income. And you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, what jobs are you gonna make by yourself
Mm-hmm.
making that type of money? So I think a lot of things that go into it is like how what does the numbers look like for someone to be comfortable by themselves and with other people?
Yeah.
Because you see a lot in our generation, we're having to get roommates, or you're seeing these people that are younger that are married get into apartments first before they buy a new home. It's
Right.
like the whole process of the first time homeowners is completely changed. This generation, we're probably not getting our first homes on average until about 28 to 30 compared to
Mm-hmm.
22 to 23.
Okay.
Because as soon as you leave, you're like, I'm going to get an apartment, 1 bedroom, kitchen. That's all we need. I don't want a backyard as much as I want one. I'm not worried about
But you
it.
said in Louisiana is $1,800 for a 3 bedroom?
Yeah, that is about the going number, about 16, 1800.
In Virginia, that's a 1 bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it is a little difficult, right? So listen, guys, we're talking to Gen Z. If y'all have any comments or anything to say, jump in. Let us see what you have. And we do have a comment right now. It says There are definitely expectations to every rule. I think the problem comes in with how to work ethics of each generation is perceived because the job market has been significantly different from generation to generation. And that is true. It is true. Are there less jobs now?
I don't want to say there's less jobs. I would say there's this feeling that there's less people to teach on these jobs. So these highly specialized jobs like the plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics, every job that seems specialized and like highly focused that the older generations kind of birthed or started or were all in it together, there's less people willing to teach. It is
Mhm.
so hard for some people to get an apprenticeship in plumbing or electrician work. It's you add in the fact that you have to pass a background check, drug check, like those things are normal, but those are all factors that are playing in heavier with this generation because you have a lot of people who choose to use recreational drugs, who have medical marijuana cards, things of that nature. So like lifestyle compared to the access is always something to consider. Like I have friends who the only reason they got into electricians because their family was in it. You know,
Okay.
they wanted to beforehand, but they knew somebody that was in it. I could think about a friend who is going to be a riverboat pilot, but one of the biggest
Oh
advantages
Lord, Riverboat Pilot.
he has
I got a
family.
flashback.
I was just about to say, but he has family in it. So like his family's in the market for it. But any say if I wanted to do it, that is a
It's hard to get into.
yeah, it's just you have to know somebody to know somebody.
Right.
And at each generation, there's, of course, there's networking. Um, that's true. That's true, Eric. But
So, mhm.
I was about to say, like, you wouldn't want someone that isn't willing to do whatever it takes, but it's even getting to the point to figure out if they're willing to do that.
Right. And that's what I was gonna say. And James, I'm coming to you. Are is the generation, is Gen Z a little is a are they a little bit more, the word we're using is lazy, right? That's or would you call it selective in what they want to do?
Oh, that's a good. I think.
I mean, cause listen, right? So honestly, I was talking to this contractor. He has his own business. And the mere fact that they couldn't find people who really wanted to do construction and stuff like that, they had to share. So they would get some people from like Texas to help, or they would go out to Texas because the kids didn't want to do that hard labor. So again, is it laziness or is it selective? And can Gen Z afford to be selective?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would speak to the lazy part. There are plenty of people that I've ran to in the past. Um, like when you hear them speak about how hard things are and
Mhm.
this, and that, I'm like, are you like really doing research? Are you really looking in the right places? Because opportunity is literally any and everywhere, right? But that also comes to the selectivity.
Mm.
There are people that, people of old, they don't want people in Gen Z don't want to beat up their bodies anymore.
Mhm.
Like people, they want to be able to still be walking around in their 50s and their 60s.
Oh,
So
that's good.
they're looking for computer jobs. Like I work in
Mhm.
IT. I don't have to go into the field like I was
Or
in.
be on the shipyard and
Mhm.
bust your body down.
Yeah, like I was in college, working at Amazon overnight, breaking down trailers, doing all this and that heavy lifting, beating my body up. Yes, I was
Mhm.
young, but do you really want to do that, for 10, 15, 20 years? And then you're like no good when you're in your 50s and 60s when you are supposed to enjoy retirement and things of that nature, enjoy your kids, like you said, being out in shipyards. You're doing, days of shifts where you're not even coming back home.
Right. Yeah.
It pays a lot of money, yes, but you're like you destroy yourself and that's that work life balance, right? Like people
Yeah.
want that. Like, all right, I'm
But I
here with
still have a part of the laziness and the selective, because I see hiring signs everywhere.
Mhm.
But so many young people are saying there's no jobs, and when we were talking backstage, I told you about the person who doesn't have a degree or anything else, and either one of y'all can jump in on this, but yet I want to start off with the 60 to 70,000, but I don't have it. So am I selective? Because I think prior generations, like, we got to do what we got to do to make it happen. But I don't feel like that from most of the Gen Zs that I know. I don't feel like, well, we got to make it happen, because just maybe Gen X, baby boomers made it too convenient. Maybe it's our fault that we almost gave entitlement behavior, because that's what I think I see a lot is entitlement behavior. Let's speak to that.
So I would say, because I work with my clients particularly on employment, so bread and butter, as much as jobs are saying that they're only hiring certain people because they want to pay the lower wages. You you have people that are walking in overqualified, just trying to get a job so they have income, and they're like, we're not paying you what you deserve. But the person's like, I will take the going rate because I know what I'm signing up for. They're like, well, there's no room for growth. That's fine, but they still don't hire them. They don't even get to those conversations. So yes, you see hiring signs, but I have been to so many businesses that say that they're hiring. I've seen countless people that I know with my company and friends and family that have put in applications, no callback. They
Hmm.
show up, they talk to the managers, nothing, not a thing. So it's like, it seems like laziness, but I think our generation is not always very upfront about the work that they try to do sometimes too, and the selectiveness. So that's what it comes with the selectiveness. We're not going to tell any and everybody that we apply to 60 jobs. We're
Hmm.
just going to keep our nose down and do it. Like, if we get the job, great. If not, then we're going to move on to the next one. Because whenever you start talking about it, people continue to ask. It's like getting your family members around you at a party. It's like, oh, how's that degree going? And all you're doing is hearing about it. And in the
Hmm.
background, you're struggling with it, trying to keep your grades afloat. It's like,
Yeah.
how often do I want to hear about job pursuing and looking for things if I'm going to be hassled for it? Does it seem like an entitlement thing, and has other generations made it easier? Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Opportunities afforded to us are endless, but it's how do you get employers to be willing to take that step with our generation always? Because
Okay.
there are some people in our generation that have terrible attitudes. Oh, I don't
Listen,
know.
are we getting ready to get into that? Let me read this comment before we get ready to get into that attitude. Y'all about to get me hyped talking about this attitude. So Tara says, I think Gen Z are more selective in their time and energy, especially when you're getting paid little money that can barely afford a decent lifestyle. Like, I think that's a really good comment, right? She said barely afford a decent lifestyle. And Darrell, you brought up how much it costs in Louisiana. James, I believe you're in Jersey. I don't even want to quote the rent out there.
Uh, you said 3 bedroom. That is the going rate for a 3 bedroom. 42 to about $6,000.
I was going to say, but that's state to state too. So you got to think about the state and what each state paid.
Right,
So
right.
wages look completely different state to state, and also,
Yes,
of course, the jobs look different depending on what area you're in. But I mean,
yes.
I'm in a partially rural suburban area. If I go to New Orleans, that's I don't
That's
want.
where it is. Well, listen, we got to talk about this attitude, because y'all have got to help me with this attitude. I just don't understand.
It's a
Gen Z
double.
will quit, and I don't even know if my heart can beat as fast as Gen Z quits, right? So they will quit in a minute. They will tell you what they not gonna do. They will walk in late, and I'm just telling you from even my office assistant. I'm like, listen, you know what are we doing here? What are you coming in? But the attitude is almost like the expectant attitude, and I'm mad if you don't see it my way.
Yeah. So walking in late, completely different conversation. That's yeah. That's not
Walking
cool.
in late, leaving early. I mean, attitude, your face all frowned up.
And that those are different things. One, it comes with kind of their experiences at home and in school, and kind of the person that they were spoken to and brought life into. Because you have people that are always smiling and in your face and happy to be at work because they're in something that they like to do. Like we've said, being selective what jobs you're at. If you're at a job just because you need to be there instead of wanting to be there, the attitude's completely different. Um, but also, it's like if you know that HR is mostly for the companies, you're not always going to have the best attitude when they ask you to step outside your job description because you're not getting paid for that.
So, James, is he saying y'all got selective attitudes too?
I mean, depending on the role, right? Like depending on what you do. Uh, like I'm a salaried employee, right? So there are things that are a little bit outside of the realm of my job that I have to do because that's what I signed up for, right? And yeah, you can have all the attitude in the world, but once you sign your name on a contract, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you must show up and show out, right? But I think when it comes to attitude, yeah, like Darrell was saying, depending on who, like how you was raised and things of that nature, it really does play an impact. If you see your parents over here, just throwing a fit at the person in Wendy's, right, for not putting enough salt on their fries, the most minute things, what somebody at work would do, like your manager, if they ask you like, hey, I know you work as a cashier, but can you mop these floors? And you like
I mean, and don't forget the trash. Like what? Like that's what I don't. This is what I need you guys to help us with because that's what I don't understand.
So
So I'm
it's
supposed to be at the register
but
and
that's
that's it.
it's all depending on what the job description entails for.
Mhm.
If your job description includes that, it's fair game. If it doesn't,
What
then
happened to above and beyond?
because they don't compensate for above and beyond, even in salary positions, they raises do not come like they used to. Job growth does not happen like it used to happen. I mean, you will have some companies that love to grow within. Chick-fil-A, prime example. The
Yeah, I
Lord's
love Chick-fil-A.
Lord's fast food place. They love to grow within, but not every place is a Chick-fil-A, a Home Depot, a Lowe's. You have some places that you could be there for 5 years and you've only gotten two raises for a 25 cent, 50 cent, a dollar maybe.
Mhm.
Like they're not doing anything to shake
Right.
or move your expenses or how much money you make. That's why you see people ready to quit so fast to go on to the next best opportunity that's paying them a little bit more.
So I want to go back. I want to talk about this and then I want to move into mental health, right? So I can remember um you see a lot of the millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, they may go from job, take a nap, and go get another and go to their second job, right? Because they know that they have to make it work for their lifestyle. So, what is again, are we still being selective or lazy that we don't work two jobs to do what we need to do to live and to have fun?
Mm. I think with that, yes, it's still being selective because that work-life balance thing, right? And I know everybody has gotten briefed on burnout. Um
Mhm.
Burnout is a real thing. You see, like I work in the hospital. They say there's a nursing shortage, right?
Mhm.
Which is completely untrue. Um the last hospital that I worked in, they were like, "Oh, it's a nursing shortage," but I got the rundown. They're not trying to. They keep it so low, so they keep the staff so low, so they don't have to pay more. They don't have to give people more benefits. They don't have to do more. So it's really the companies that are making price cuts, right? But when you make price cuts on the people that are supposed to be delivering your product or delivering these services, you you ain't gonna get that. Like the money ain't there.
Right. And so that is and in some places, James, yeah, you are absolutely right in that, right? And then I'm gonna read this comment in a minute. And in other places, because I do know some nurses, there truly is a shortage because nobody wants to go to school. They want to just be able to get in the door and that's it, but that's not gonna work, right? And sometimes I'm wondering if some of these nurses nowadays are just getting in the door. I had read where one nurse forged everything
Mm.
and she never went to school to be a nurse, right? So the comment said, I believe a lot. What did it say? I believe a lot of the gatekeepers in the workforce are baby boomers and Gen Xers who have an idea of what is expected based on how it was when they grew up. But as y'all were saying, we see it's different, right? And then Tiara says, older generations didn't value their time as much as we do. We try to make it work without sacrificing our well being. And that's a great comment to segue into mental health, right? So I was reading where the millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers feel that Gen Zers are mentally weak. They can't handle stress, right? So I'm gonna read this what statistics that I got from the Center of the Disease Control and Prevention. They said that poor mental health remains a substantial public health problem. When asked to describe their current mental health or well being, just 15% of members of Gen Z polled it was excellent. Gen Zers report having experienced negative emotions such as stress, anxiety, loneliness. That's what the study said. So basically, it's saying that there was a big decline. 52% of millennials of the same age range felt they have better mental health than Gen Z. How did Gen Z's mental health deteriorate the way statistics, right, is saying it did?
I think it has a lot to do with all the varying factors that a generation has in front of them. Social media, the big one. Um, the family support looks completely different. The world that we engage in completely different. So like being flooded with copious amounts of waves of comparison and thought, and you're not doing this right. Look what you could have at this age. I'm doing this. I'm better than you. You look this way. It's feeding
Mhm.
into that. And then you have a generation who has more language surrounding mental health. Because as we know, in the older generation, especially, I could talk for Black men like I did before. The whole one thing that we're taught is Black men don't show their emotions as much.
Mhm.
Don't cry, suck it up and keep it moving. Make it work, make it shake. But this generation being taught, talk about it. What is
Mhm.
actually going on? What's on your mind? Don't lash out. Let's figure out what's going on and let's actually flesh it out. Talk to somebody, talk to your friend, talk to your parents, talk to your teachers. Does it still come out in poor ways sometimes? We have people our age lash out and stuff,
Mhm.
make poor
Mhm.
choices. Absolutely,
Mhm.
but that's
Mhm.
every generation. Um, so it's just taking. I think the education surrounding mental health has made that number seem that way. But I think if you asked other generations if they had the same knowledge as we did about mental health at the same time frame, they'd be like, "It's not that great. I'm stressed out. My dad's gone all the time at work. My mom is shouldering it the household by herself. Me and my siblings don't get enough time. Like it's just
Yeah.
the world
So
and the perspective's different."
right. So James, listen, right? Being a Gen X, we had to do we just had to do we had to do. Was it always right? No. But being a Gen X, I'm trying to um pull a difference between the Gen X and what I see in the Gen Z, where we felt like there was no time for mental health, right? That's what we felt because that's what we were taught. Like we didn't get all of the attention mental health did now, right? However, being in the counseling field, being an older generation, being a mother, all of that other good stuff, I'm wondering how much of this information about mental health has made a weaker generation, because now you'll get, oh, well, we talked about job description. Can you do this? Oh, my mental health won't let me do that. And I hear that a lot. Oh, yeah, no, that's not good for my mental health, so I'm just going to leave. Right? So are we putting too much in my truth? I can't stand my truth. It's the truth of the matter. It's not my truth. It's what's the facts. And I'm wondering of how many are dealing with the facts of the matter versus using the mental health as an excuse. Right? So James, and I'm not saying that's everybody at all, but come on. Oh no, that's not good for my mental health. I'm just going to go home. Girl, sweep the floor.
Well, it's like mental health is a very sensitive area, where if you broke your arm, that's easily diagnosable, right? Like it's a bone sticking out your skin, right? We got to patch it up, clean it, do all the things. Now, when it comes to mental health, it's very hard, it's very sensitive to be like, well, you're not depressed. You just don't want to mop the floor, right? But we can't always put how we feel toward how somebody else feels, like you have to give people room to express that, to be able to express their feelings, right? Because that's the failures that we see in the previous generations, where nobody talked about anything. Like a parent, like from parent to child, if the parent was in the wrong, the parent never apologized to the child, right? Even though that child is going to be an adult one day, right? And they're going to bear those unhealthy behaviors into their adult life, right? And then they have kids, and then that's how the cycle continues through generation through generation through generation, right? So I think, yeah, like with when it comes to mental health, it some people do use it as an excuse.
Oh
They
yeah.
definitely do. They for sure do, but it's something that's sensitive and that should be taken as serious as a broken arm, right? Because a broken man, a broken woman are going to have broken children, and
That's
those
right.
broken
That's
children
good. That's
have
good.
broken kids as well. So it's just, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. And Darrell, you work in that field, and you're in your residency and all of that now. So society has a lot to do with it, right? And yes, James, I love that comment what you said about, broken parents, broken children, and the cycle of brokenness just keep continues. The whole thing that I want to say is, right, when it comes to mental health, what he said mental health is legitimate, but there are times when it is a crutch. Yes, we must be sensitive, but also challenge when necessary. And thank you for that, James. That's what I was going to say. But when we tend to challenge, right, it's almost as, again, I don't want to be challenged. Don't challenge me to do better. Let me stay right here in my mental health issue and be good with it, right? And I'm not saying that's everybody, but I see that a lot in this field. I see that a lot. They don't want to do things. Most of them don't want to do things to get better or anything else. But again, my mental health, am I using it as a crutch to not go and pursue that goal, pursue that dream, pursue more? Darrell, you in this field, talk to that.
It's one of those things where I'd say rapport is everything, especially with this generation. We were taught forever, respect their elders, respect their elders, respect their elders. This generation has been a generation of breaking those chains and being like, I respect people that give me respect back. Now, everyone doesn't have that motto. I still respect my elders, but I'm going to do it in a way where it's like, I will keep you at a healthy distance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a boss that is always talking down on you and your coworkers and belittling you, you're not going to want to go the extra mile.
Right.
You're going to stand firmer in your thoughts on, I have these rights, I have these protections for me, so let me stand on it. that's also one of those things where it's like it's so new that some people are so radical with it that like they do take advantage of it. It can be a crutch for some people, but that's where rapport comes in. You can challenge people, but who's challenging them? Is it the person that they don't get along with and they don't really vibe with, or is it their mentor? Is it their favorite cousin? Is it their favorite coworker?
So you gotta vibe with me in order for me to challenge you? Like what?
It's a sense of but it's a sense of respect, because if you have a boss that all they do is talk down to people and give
That's
people more,
different. That's
but
different.
but that's what I'm saying. Like that's where the challenging comes in place, because you know when you can challenge somebody, you know how receptive they're going to be. Ellison, you know it. You know what clients are going to be resistant. It's the same thing. If we're a generation that does not move off of our resistance, if we feel resistant to something, chances are most of them are going to stand on it. And is it always the is it always the best option? No, but it's what they choose to do.
So
It's not.
let me ask you guys this. If I'm challenging you, right? Because sometimes I feel like they don't some people don't know the difference between, like me, I think talking down is you're nothing, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, right? But if I challenge you to do better and you feel like I am talking down to you, how do we bridge this gap to understand the difference?
Tone and approach.
Mm.
Tone and approach is everything. Because Ellison, you have heard coworkers speak to clients. Relationships required for correction, and
Yeah.
that's a huge part.
Mhm.
We It's also that thing where we've been raised up by a generation that is so spiritual and so religious, and
Uh-oh.
we have been taught to pour into things that pour into us, and now we're getting pushback for it. Because we were taught by my parents, my aunts, my uncles, don't be anywhere where your energy and your presence isn't welcome.
Mhm.
So if my energy and presence isn't welcome and valued, I'm not going to be the most willing to do something. It's the
Okay.
same way I feel about schools, about jobs, about sports teams. You can vibe with the team and a coach or a manager, but as soon as management changes and it switches up, you're going to pull back on what you do.
But where's
Because
perseverance and where is the drive to want to do more at if I'm pulling back because of change or if I'm pulling back because you're challenging me to do better, right?
I think that comes from who is in their life and who's speaking life into them. Because you have people that is another great comment, James. But if you have people that speak in life, and so that perseverance comes, it's like, hey, stick out this job until you get what you get out of this job, and then move on.
Okay.
Like, get what you need to get out of here, and then keep it moving. But you don't have people that's doing that. All you have are parents like, you need to keep a job. Well, if your job's giving you less hours, then what? You're persevering, but you have less opportunities.
Mhm.
And another job's not going to hire you unless you get rid of the old job, but you're going to be in this loop of, oh, you don't have a job. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're staying at home. So speaking life into, hey, I know you just lost your job. This is time to find a better one.
Okay. So
It
the
seems
con
it seems
go
very
ahead.
soft. I was gonna say it seems very soft at times to the older generation, but it's important. You can't just destroy a fire that's just getting going. You can't put it out before it gets going. You got to let it build.
See, and I'm from the generations. Look, we just make things happen. We just push through and make things happen. And did I do that with my kids? I didn't do that with my kids. I gave them opportunity. So, even though I was the broken and I came from different, I didn't do that same thing with my kids, right? So this is why I'm able to speak that. And I hear, relation and all this stuff like that. And Tiara said relationship requires correction. James had a wonderful, wonderful comment about relationship. But let's talk about Gen Z and relationships because it appears that although we speak a lot about relationships, Gen Zers don't have a lot of relationships because of social media. The interaction is not there. Let's talk to that. Let's talk to what does relationships look like nowadays when my best friend is on the game. Go ahead, James. What you got?
Well, that is like that's crazy because a lot of people are like that, right? Like they go through, internet forums like yeah, like being on Facebook, being on
Mm-hmm.
Reddit, being on the game, right? Because now in this generation, it's so expansive. You can talk to anyone in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just stuck to people that are down the street or a block away, or just at school. You can be whoever you want on the internet, even if you're battling with the mental health aspects of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can be whoever you want because you're behind the screen. They don't like people don't have to see that you're crying
Mm-hmm.
at night, or that this stressful situation is putting you like close to the edge. And I feel like a lot of people get resolve, they get relationship through that. Now person to person, it might be a little bit tougher because maybe they market, like let's say for a guy, he marketed himself as being like this 6'3", 200-pound bodybuilder, right? But he like this 5'4" skinny dude that ain't, and when he go meet this person, and like that's catfish, right? Like, oh, you
Yes.
catfish me. And a lot of people run into that, right? Like, oh, catfish culture is still alive and well today as it was 10 years ago. So I think it's easy for people to make relationships online, but it is hard to do it in person because people aren't as receptive as they used to.
Right. So that goes back to what you said, Darrell. You said I got to have a relationship with you in order to persevere, in order to get correction. But a lot of Gen Zers don't know how to have the face-to-face communication. I walked in a room, and I'll tell you, I want to say I think it was 5 of them. It might have been 4. They were all laughing and cracking up, but they were texting each other right in the room.
Mm.
How do we have a relationship like that? And but yet I can't correct you. I got to do it over text? Like, that's what I'm saying. How do we have that relationship?
No, it's how I think it's situational. It's how you engage with that person. I'm a person in front of people kind of guy, but there are certain friends that I can only reach over text. There's people that I've met in my life that I can only reach over text. So being able to navigate both is very hard. And then, like you brought up with dating, it's tough because the as expansive as it is, it's also that much more selective because people can find what they want
Mm.
so quickly, and they can just wait and wait and wait until they get it. And you're not left with, oh, I had to date somebody that went to my school. Oh, I have to go to prom with these girls. Oh, I have to go to the games with these people. You could be like, I could get somebody from a town or two over, go out of my city that hasn't dated my friends. Like that those conversations are completely different now.
Yeah.
You can date across state lines, you can date across city lines. So why not wait for something that you want? Also, communication has broken down because people haven't been taught by their parents how to communicate. That kills everything. When you're not taught how to talk to another person, like you got some sense, then not many people are going to be willing to put up with you. What do women always say? Well, no, what do guys always say? The common theme is it's tough being the first good man in a woman's life
Mhm.
Mm.
because you're
That's
sitting
good.
there through all the thick and thin. You're the one
Mhm.
putting up with the bad
The
habits.
baggage. Mhm.
Like, and bringing that from relationship to relationship is not fair to that next person. You have to drop it because they did you no wrong, but people bring that with them.
Mhm.
So as a man, not everybody has that resilience or grit to them because they weren't taught that. It was me and your mom got together when we were in high school. If you didn't meet somebody in high school, your whole view is, well, I'm chilling. What's the hope
So,
for me?
I want, as a parent, right?
Mhm.
I want to say, because you said, well, the parents didn't teach him how to communicate. We had nothing else to do in COVID but communicate. We
Oh,
we just we just didn't. What else were we doing in COVID but communicating, right? So, and then again, on the other spectrum, there are some parents that threw their kids into social media so they didn't have to interact. So, the balance could be here or there. It just depends. But, the whole thing about it is you brought up dating, and I'm going to say my comment, and I don't care who likes it or not. I'm sorry for y'all generation because y'all don't know what y'all getting. You got the boys looking like the girls looking like the boys, you got them looking like everything else. You gotta ask, okay, what does your birth certificate say that you are? Right? Because so many people are doing whatever they want to do to their bodies and everything else. How do you really date the person from social media that you never really interacted with to find out that she was he before?
and that comes with the communication part. Like how brave and how good are you about talking to somebody about something big like that?
So
You
is
know,
that a question, James and Darrell, that y'all gotta ask nowadays? Is that a question? What's your birth gender? Is that a question? Go ahead, James and Darrell.
Well, I think that's a little bit like intrusive, right?
What?
Like
I gotta date you
to come straight out and just fire out like, oh, like what were
by the
you
third date.
like? Yeah, like biologically, are you a female or a male? That is very intrusive to ask someone. Now, like James said, right? Like relationships, like you get those through like being with each other, right? Like getting to know each other. And that is something super sensitive if that person feels like they can't like tell you, or they should, like if they're interested in being in the world and being in the dating space, they should lead with that and let people know like, hey, this is that, and it's okay if you don't want, if you no longer want to deal with me, that is fine. but
Okay.
but a lot of people are scared because of the stigma behind it, right?
and
Okay.
safety. It's like how
Yeah.
safe are people to lead with that too. You have so many, like the number of date crimes that happen in our generation has skyrocketed.
Hmm.
So when you have biological women and trans women dating now, their fear is men that are aggressive. And you have men that stalk. Women do it too. I'm not saying women don't,
I was gonna
because
say, now listen, when you
some
got a woman
women
that's stalking.
some women be spinning the block a little too hard sometimes. You, like he said, no, baby girl, leave him alone. But when date crime has skyrocketed, you have that hesitation about approaching people, about being approached, about going to places to meet people. The amount of times that I've had to protect homegirls from getting roofied or drugged at bars is crazy to see.
Right.
It's
But is
wild.
that not different? Okay, so I don't know if y'all seen in the news, but this couple, they were dating. They
Mhm.
were dating, and I want to say it was about 8 months to a year they were dating. And then he found out that she was not a she.
Mm.
This is what I'm saying. When do we in this relationship tell you what's really happening? Like when do we do that? Do we wait 8, 9 months, a year in? Or should that be something we say, hey, this is what I chose to do? And if we move forward, we do.
I think that circles back to like the mental health space, right? You know, they were born male, right? But in their mind, they're like, no, I am a female, which they are, right? Like
No.
th- they are a female. They are a female, and the thing is, it's like respecting other people's life decisions and who they want to be and who they are, right? But in the same token, the actuality of it, right? You were a male. Like you were that. Today you're a female, but you were born male. And that is something that should be discussed before things really start kicking off. Because like Darrell said, not only just date crime, but just crime in general
Crime
has
in
blown
general.
up for people like that in general. Like they will go to the club, and there have been many instances where trans men and women were just randomly just killed for no reason. And it's sad, but those things have to be discussed before the
Yeah,
relationship progresses.
I agree. And
And that
and I'm not making light of that situation, but isn't that happening in society everywhere? If you look at the news in New York right now, there's people going around just punching women in the face that's walking down the street. Just punching them. They don't care what color they are or anything else. So unfortunately, this is what I'm saying. Did social media, did technology hinder Gen Z from building relationships and being able to be sensitive to humanity? Because look at, like you said, look at the crimes that are happening to everybody, every ethnicity, every social status, every economical status is just happening to everybody. So, yes, unfortunately, there are some genders, there are some nationalities that are experiencing this more. But did technology hinder Gen Z from having a real in touch mentality with society?
I I hesitate so much on blaming it just on technology and social media, because where are the parents that taught people to value life that way? Because if you put a certain value and emphasis on other people, and you're allowed to engage with other people without backlash from your parents, hey, why are you hanging out with so and so? They live in that part of town. Versus, oh, you live around so and so, let's have this conversation about your safety. Let's have a conversation about how you approach things. This is some things to look out for. Yes, that is a scary conversation that we've had to have in the Black community a lot, but it prepared me to interact with other people that were from different backgrounds. I am able to approach people like, hey, what's your family like? Oh, I want to meet them. It's the 90-day rule. Like, after so long, I want to meet your people. My parents want to meet your parents, but I want to meet your people first. I want to know who's behind this person. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the skills to do that.
Hmm.
So while social media plays a part, it's all about what they were taught to do. Because if you
So,
weren't,
as a parent,
Mhm,
I'm going to stick up for us parents. You have the parents out there doing that. Kids are going to do what they want to do regardless, right?
mhm,
But I remember, growing up, social media, we didn't have social media, but we had the game and different things like that. But we brought each other to each other's house. We played the game and we still interacted playing a game, right? That's the game. Social media makes everything look as if, it's just it's a game out there. I can't even think the name of this game. I can't stand it. Grand Theft Auto.
Mm.
And I'm alarmed at how many kids are actually playing this game. And then they feel like they can go out there and do that. So when I say social media, I say technology, I mean some of the games. And we can even talk about some of the music, all of that. I do believe that parents have a big role to play in that. But we can't put everything on a parent because you guys are still going to do what you want to do at the end of the day. And that's every generation, right?
yeah,
That's
Mm.
every single generation. Um, man, this was good, y'all. I'm so, man. We probably felt like we needed a part two because I ain't even got to the other 10 bullets I got. But it's really, really, really good. And I did want to just hone in on social media because another stereotype with Gen Z is your attention span. It used to be at 12 seconds. Now it dropped down to 8 seconds, right? And they saying that that is less than a goldfish. And they're blaming like TikTok and Instagram and all of this stuff with the less than a minute videos. Does that play a role in our attention span? Does that play a role in reality? Because in reality, nothing's going to excite me in 8 seconds that quick, right? And the other second part of that is because y'all both have been in school. Is 8 seconds of attention span going to hurt the education?
I don't think so. Having just like finished being in school my entire life, I don't think so. I feel
He
like,
said my entire life.
yeah, seriously, no breaks. But I don't think so. I think where people are looking for instant gratification, right? People are looking for information as fast as they want it, right? No one is sitting through no one is really sitting through a 3 hour documentary like what we had to do, what you had to do when we were kids, right? Nobody's sitting through that anymore. So when news pop up, like the broadcasting channels, they got that. They said, all right, 45 seconds. Tell me everything that happened in this 3 hour event. In 45 seconds, they'll get it done. Because the times are moving fast. People want information quick, people want it fast. And I think when it comes to education, professors are taking some of those things and implementing it in the classroom. Because they like, all right, listen, like classes are getting shorter. Like classes are getting shorter, so let's say you got 45 minutes to really go over everything that you need to go over. You're going to compress it as much as possible so you can get your point across, and then still have time for delegation and things like that. You still want to do that. So I think it's good to keep things short and just give people what they need. It's like that in the workplace.
But are we not missing stuff? Because in the research that I said, it said that the decrease of attention span is hindering higher education. Do we need the 3 hours? No, I can agree with that part. But am I getting everything? Darrell, you getting ready to go in the mental health field.
It starts with what we have as younger kids because teachers aren't don't have the same resources they used to have to keep kids engaged or do these interactive assignments and lessons that are well thought out. We used to sit in classes and watch movies and stuff that were great informations that we would sit through. Things aren't the same. The teachers aren't afforded the same time because you have these curriculums that are like, get these kids with as much knowledge as possible, as quickly as possible, so we can test them. But when you normalize and you socialize that, you turn it to kids that have shorter attention spans because we've been taught learn it real quick, trash it, learn something else. Learn it real quick, don't retain it, trash it, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Learn what
Is
you
that
need.
a problem, guys?
Yes, it's one of those things where like it's a beautiful thing and it's also a terrible thing because you're not preparing them for these longer classes, these more extensive advanced classes where you have to really hone in and focus on it, which Ellison, that's why we have an increase in kids or young professionals wanting Adderall and medications for ADHD.
Yeah.
They're being over medicated too early.
Yep.
A whole nother story. Two, whenever you're not taught to have those two separate worlds, you're obviously going to be lacking in the longer one because that's not what we're taught. I could do the quick lessons and I can also sit through 3 hours of class, but that's because our little age range has been socialized for that. The generation after, like the age group after 14 and younger,
Yeah.
different conversation.
Yeah, I don't want no doctor under 50 because you ain't sat in class long enough and you didn't do enough of your prereqs for me. So no, I'm gonna need you to and that's me being biased. But seriously, if we're just getting it through, getting it through, getting it through, getting it through, how much are we really retaining to be professional in our profession, right? And I know we coming up on time. I want to tap onto this last subject, right? Darrell, you brought it up a little bit. James, I'm coming to you first with this.
Mhm.
Gen Z individuals do not a lot of Gen Zers do not identify with a particular religion or belief, but they're spiritual, right? They're spiritual. So I read that where at least half of Gen Z said they are more spiritual because we as a generation are more conscious about ourselves and often insecure about our future. So we rather dig into astrology, numerology, and tarot have become a way of validating ourselves. Ouch, is this the generation that will forget about God? Ooh,
Um,
take a deep breath.
in short part, no, this will not be the generation that forgets about God.
Okay.
And those things that you name, like the tarot and the hand reading,
Astrology and yeah, numerology and all that.
those are all the things that are placed by the enemy, right? To help
Mhm.
you under to put up a smoke screen to say like, oh yeah, you understand yourself because of this and that, right? God has been precious to so many people because he saved us, right? Like
Mhm.
he laid down his life to save every generation from then on, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So those tools used by the enemy, as people mature, as people get older, they will start to see like, okay, well, this crystal said that I will do this, right? But then when the crystal fails, what you gonna turn to next? All right, this psychic said I was gonna do this, and once that doesn't come true, all right, what else are you gonna go to, right? But the number one thing I would say in my life is God, right? Like I
Mhm.
know if a certain situation is not going my way, I can always turn to God. God
Mhm.
is the one and only thing that I know for a fact that I can go to
That's right.
that will never fail. Um, like I said before, God has I said this in Bible study. God has an amazing track record, right?
Yeah.
There are things like when you're really tapped into God and you have that relationship with him, like you start to see things, right? And as you mature, you start seeing like, wow, okay, that situation that I thought I was all alone, that like I was struggling with depression, I was struggling with this. God helped me through and got me
Right.
to the next side. And that's one thing a lot of people in this generation that say that they're, oh yeah, I'm spiritual, I'm this, like, oh, what's your birth sign, what's this, what's that, right? To try to understand humanity. But Jesus already did that. He did that thousands of like over.
Right. Over to almost 2000 years ago.
Yeah.
I listen. I get you. I got you. And I understand, but they ain't going to church. They not reading. So where are they getting this epiphany about God from that you got? That probably somebody told you about, right? And
Mm,
Darrell always says this. Well, where are the parents at? And this is the one time I want to agree with Darrell. Where are the parents? Where are the grandparents to teach you guys about church?
I
Go
I
ahead.
Go
yeah,
ahead, James.
okay.
Before I
um
jump in,
yeah. So like about that, right? Like my parents, they weren't in church. As a child, I was in church, but something happened, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
enemy tossed in something into my life that made me go away from being in church, right?
Mm-hmm.
But God is the one true leader that you need in your life, right? So God is
Mm-hmm.
always going to bring you back to him. So those experiences, like not being in church, maybe their parents, like maybe their parents had a really bad experience in
Mm-hmm.
church. There, you hear all type of crazy things that I'm not going to get into, but
Right, right, right.
and that trust factor, like why did God allow these things to happen to me, that carries on into the children, right? Where they're not praising God, they're bashing him. They're like, oh no, like these church people are so crazy, like what is a God that's going to allow these things to happen and blah blah blah. And then the kids are like, wow, well, if my father felt like this, then I mean, it must not be that great to be in
Mm-hmm.
church. It must not be that great to be praising Jesus and doing the things like that.
Right. So how do we reach you guys if Gen Zers are sick of church the way it is?
And this is where I always come back to. It's less about being sick of church and God. It's more about being sick of church, the people. Church, like
Thank you.
it's
Yes.
turned from this place where you can come and bear your sins and really talk about the nitty and gritty to a sideshow half the time with some of these big churches. Or you get these churches
Ooh.
that don't want to talk about the real issues, where they have the same 17 sermons, and a lot of them are about condemnation and
He
damnation,
said
and
same
they're not
17
teaching you
sermons.
anything practical because it's coming from a different generation that doesn't have a pulse on this generation. So when you're out of touch with this generation, obviously it's not going to resonate. That, and you're not really speaking to the people or listening to the people, and you're saying, suck it up, toughen it up. But their experiences are so valid. Like James said, we're not going to be the generation to lose God. Like, and Eric said it too, we're going to be the revival because you have those people our age that has such a great pulse on the church, but we have to wait our turns. We have to wait
Mm.
to lead the church.
Mm.
You have some young pastors out
Mm.
there, but you have
That's
to
powerful.
wait because churches are, I don't want to say nepotism, but they are one of those long-term positions. Once you're in it, your pastor be going on 40-year anniversaries, and you're like, Pastor, you can
Still
pastor,
listening. I remember the first sermon he preached 40 years ago sounded just like that one.
and
We
you're great.
have to do what we have to do to reach you guys. That's what I'm hearing, right? So I appreciate you guys being on here. And yes, it's important. Y'all will be the revival, but we got to make sure that we have the Darrells and the James and the other Gen Zers that's willing to step up to the plate and see like, hey, it is for us to be a revival. It is for us to be mindful of our mental health, but also relational, have the communication in person. So it's going to take, you guys to step up and be the leaders, right? So with what I'm hearing is Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, it's time for us to tap in, and that's why I'm grateful for you guys for being on here. Tap in to see how can we bridge this huge gap? How can we let you guys step up and lead? How can we let you guys step up and be this by side with us? Not the ones that's out there trying to be showboating and lazy and don't want to be anything, but the true you guys that believe in God, that are leaders, that are doing things. We need to learn how to bridge that gap and pull y'all in and let y'all lead a service and let you guys lead a study and let you guys say, hey, this is how you relate to us. It's not the same like it was, right? Man, y'all on fire. I love y'all. Oh, yes, without micromanaging everything. Yes, I agree. Listen, I appreciate you guys. I could go on and on and on, but we already over, and I know I'm supposed to go to an hour, but I just had to tap into that part. And James, I'm so, glad what you pulled out about, about God and about relationship and even what it looks like sometimes to move out, but then to come back to God. So, and make sure that he is your solid rock and that you understand that without him, I can't do nothing, because that's part of the problem that we think Gen Z feels like they know it all and they don't need us and nobody else and God either. That was the other thing. But clearly we do need you guys. We just need to understand y'all. And y'all got to understand us too.
Tone and approach, like I said. Tone and approach.
All right, so real quick, give the Gen Zs and all the generations a nugget on how to bridge this gap. Cause y'all got to bridge the gap with them 14-year-olds that are coming up and
Mm. Well, I would say like in the topics in the beginning, right? Like speaking about like different work opportunities, things of that nature. It's more so like investing in yourself, right? You anything that you do that you want to create and grow bigger, you have to invest in it, right? So
Mhm.
if you want to make more money, you want to have a big home, lavish cars, this and that, right? You need to educate yourself.
Mhm.
And education is in many different forms. You can go to college, you can go to trade school, you can become a real estate agent, you could do a whole bunch of different things. And with God, it's all possible.
Yes. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Darrell.
I think it just comes down to like the relational part. And it's not listening to respond, it's listening to understand. And
Mhm.
that's on all different fronts. If that's social media, what they're doing with their career, their education, what they're doing with their own life decisions. It's really listening to understand and help them flesh it out without killing something before it even gets started. You know,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have thought that I could do what I've done without having people that poured into me correctly. You know, when
Mhm.
you have a bunch of empty vessels trying to pour into another vessel, you're not going to get anything that flourishes. So, having people that have full cups to pour into other people is vital. But knowing how to listen to understand, like, oh, you want to do this, and this is why. This is why you're going down this path. Um, and stop, just not shutting people out and just being open to listen because you can learn a lot about a person that quickly.
All right, y'all. I'm so proud of y'all. I know them, y'all. Well, hold on, guys. Okay, don't go nowhere. Listen, you have been watching Real Talk with Ellison, and we thank you so much for chiming in. Thank you for your comments. Right, we've been talking to two fabulous young men, Darrell Myles and James Brunson, and we are grateful for them taking their time out to help us bridge the gap and understand them a little bit more. So, thank you. Don't forget to hit the like button and like the page on Facebook. Don't forget to hit the bell so you know when Real Talk with Ellison is going live. So thank you all so much for watching Real Talk with Ellison. I will see y'all next week at 7 p.m. And my co-host, I miss y'all. Love y'all. Y'all be blessed. Mwah.